Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third issue of the CRT-AI newsletter. Today, we will be talking about generative AI, and we will be talking to Rory Ward, who's a third-year PhD candidate at the Data Science Institute in the University of Galway, where he's supervised by Professor John Preston. Rory, could you please introduce yourself and give us a little background about what you do?
Sure thing. Thanks, Sharmi. So, hello, everyone. My research is in the field of automatic visual media colorization, which is a subfield of artificial intelligence. This area concerns tools and techniques to colorize black and white images and videos from some underlying representation of information. I hold a BEng in Electronic and Computer Engineering from the National University of Galway, and my thesis was focused on locale specifically trained deep learning colorization. Before joining the CRT-AI funded PhD program, I developed a background in electrical power transmission. In my spare time, I enjoy practicing judo and playing guitar.
Thank you so much, Rory. So let's dive into the questions then. So could you just explain to us in simple terms what generative AI is and how it's shaping the future of technology?
Sure thing. So generative AI, you can think of it as like a creative machine. It's a type of artificial intelligence that learns from existing data to generate new things, such as pictures, music, or text. Think of it as an AI artist that can, for example, look at black and white pictures and add colors or compose new songs. It's becoming important because it can make technology more creative and helpful. For example, it can help turn old black and white videos into colorful ones, or even generate realistic landscapes, characters, and stories for video games. Generative AI is shaping the future by making technology more imaginative and useful in various ways. It can help with art, entertainment, and even science. It's like having a smart assistant that can create new things based on what is learned from the past. And this can open up a whole new world of possibilities for all sorts of industries.
Thank you so much. And what exactly inspired you to delve into this world of generative AI? And how do you see it changing and revolutionizing various industries?
So I was inspired to delve into this world just because of its huge potential, and it has a huge array of industries that it can influence. So it can touch so many different industries and has so much power in that it can be creative. And this really intrigued me because, you think generally of machines, you think of them as very mechanical, I guess, and they're just good at ones and zeros. But the whole idea of bringing in some creativity into that has really, captured my imagination. And I think that generative AI, it just has such a huge impact. It can have such a huge impact. It's not just about creating art, although there is that facet of it, and it has huge applications there. But it can also revolutionize how we work, learn, and innovate. For example, in the entertainment industry, generative AI is changing the game by enabling the creation of more realistic and immersive experiences. Video games, movies, and virtual reality worlds are becoming more engaging and lifelike thanks to AI-generated content. Generative AI tools also assist artists and designers. It allows them to explore new ways of being creative. It's not replacing the work that these artists and designers do, but more enhancing it by providing potentially some inspiration, as well as automating some of the repetitive tasks, giving them more time to focus on the truly creative aspects of the work. It's also applicable in research. So generative AI can simulate complex systems. For example, it can model climate change and assist with data analysis, making it a very powerful tool in trying to solve complex problems. So they're just a few of the industries that I think that generative AI can really influence.
Do you think there might be like a conflict between artists and writers and with the AI generative kind of content?
I think so. I think it's an interesting point and kind of similar to a lot of technologies when they first appear. They're new and scary and no one really knows what to make of them. But I think once people really start working with them, they can see that, it's just a really valuable tool, as opposed to anything that's going to have a negative impact.
All right, that's positive actually.
Mm.
And could you share like a real life example where generative AI has made a significant impact, perhaps transforming how we create art and design, or even make decisions, really?
Yeah, so I think one really remarkable example is in the field that I'm most interested in. It's content creation and art generation. So there's been a few different kind of techniques and implementations of how we get this work, and two such ones are generative adversarial networks and variational autoencoders. So these are specific architectures of neural networks. And basically, they have been applied, in this case, particularly GANs, to create some stunning art. An example of this is a portrait called Edmund de Bellamy. So it was a portrait that was generated by GAN and was actually sold at an auction. So this is just something completely different from the usual sort of way that art is created for auctions. And as well as art, it's also being applied to create stunning music and literature. It really has a broad range of examples. I know I'll keep going back to it, but in the entertainment industry, there's also lots of examples there of where it's been producing music, video, and video games as well, which is really helping developers create and artists create these examples or create this work in a more effective way.
Well, the when it comes to writers, I think there was a writers' strike recently in Hollywood, and they were really concerned about generative AI really taking their jobs from them. And this
Yeah.
is where there's like a concern from people who don't really understand technology that much, about how it's going to change things, really.
Yeah, yeah. I can see that it is scary, and there needs to be a lot of work done around information about what this technology can and can't do. Um, and I think that's really important, have these conversations and talk about what generative AI is, what it does, what it doesn't do, and how it can be used as a useful tool as opposed to something that's, going to take people's jobs or whatever else.
So when you're working with generative AI and in your PhD, could you share with us what are the major hurdles that you faced in your work and how you've overcome them?
Sure thing. So I faced a few hurdles in my work. Um, One of the main ones is that the whole area of AI, and particularly generative AI, is moving so fast. It's quite difficult to keep up with. It's almost like every day there's a new major breakthrough that we need to follow up on and read about. So the way that I've kind of dealt with that or tried to deal with it, um, I've taken a few approaches actually. So I think a good way of dealing with this is attending conferences if that's possible. You can also read research papers and participate in seminars and workshops. So I really think collaboration with your peers is really an important way, and perhaps maybe something that when you think of a PhD, maybe you think of it being a very solo enterprise, but actually kind of working with people and similar people in the field can really help you keep on top of what's going on and what's important and what you need to know about. Another area that I'd kind of like to talk about is these models require a lot of compute. So they're large models and they take large specific hardware, essentially GPUs mostly. So getting access to large amounts of GPUs to train these models can be quite difficult. But there are ways of dealing with this as well. Like you can optimize your code, you can investigate what your institution has to offer, and you can even look into some of the major companies have collaborations with research. So you can apply for access to compute to help you along in that regard. Um, Then on the technical side, there's also issues to deal with data quality. So it's quite difficult to, find data sets that are applicable to your specific task that you're trying to achieve. And even within that, you need to take account of sort of the bias that might be in that data sets, and you really need to have a good understanding of what's going on in there. And I think really the way that you deal with that sort of hurdle is just it's research. It's reading a lot of papers about data sets and what different people are using and why they're using them, as well as reading into the limitations of such data sets and any potential biases they might have. And as well as that, there's the technical side of, well, which architecture do you use? How do you prevent overfitting or any of these other problems that you may encounter? And I think the way of dealing with that is just reading up on the latest techniques. So, it's like you're looking at some things like dropout or regularization or early stopping. So I think they are probably some of the main hurdles that I've encountered and tried to deal with to the best of my ability.
And when you say collaboration with industries, is there also an exchange of data there?
There can be. It's very dependent on the situation, really. So some companies will allow you to use their data and publish that, and then other ones will encourage you to use openly available data sets.
All right.
Mhm.
So as you already mentioned that it raises some ethical concerns as well with the data, but also with deep fakes, misinformation. How can society actually navigate through these ethical challenges? And what role does responsible AI actually play in this?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult question and an important question, and something we need to, really have a think about. I think it's multifaceted. I think there's lots of different elements at play here that we need to consider. So firstly, maybe I'll talk a little bit about, I think that regulatory measures are important, responsible AI development, what that means in terms of designing for the ethical concerns and not just thinking about them almost as an afterthought. And I'll also look into maybe what the uses of general AI should be and how we define what they should and shouldn't be. So I think in terms of responsible AI, transparency is really important. So developers should really make clear, and that's kind of, I guess, what we're trying to do as PhDs. We write our papers and really describe our methods and what we've done. And I think that's really important, because then it's reproducible and people can go and investigate it and make sure it's done in the proper way, which really is really important. I think there's also kind of a governmental sort of side of this as well. I think there needs to be, regulations about what is important or what is thought to be a good use of generative AI versus what isn't. And I think that there needs to be kind of oversight boards in terms of what that looks like. So I think that there's the government side of things, there's like the developer side of things, and there's also like the general society kind of has a role to play here as well. So I think information is really important, and that access to, good information in terms of maybe extending our research or kind of making it accessible to people. Because maybe sometimes when you talk about generative AI, it can be quite aloof maybe and difficult to explain. So I think it's really important that, general society is included in these conversations, and their sort of concerns are listened to and kind of talked through in a way that makes them feel at ease about it, and influences then the development of the AI as well, to a case where it's kind of symbiotic relationship.
Do you think as PhD students there's any channel that can actually raise concerns or ask questions to the government authorities or people who are actually making these policies regarding data and everything else?
I think that there are, but I think it could also be improved upon. So I guess it's responsibilities of PhDs to kind of investigate this technology, what it's capable of, what it's not capable of. And then I think it's also quite a relatively new area. So I think there's still a lot of trying to figure out exactly what it is and what it isn't and what it's useful for and what it's not useful for. So I'm hopeful that in time it will kind of become more of a mainstream technology and people will be involved in the development and the regulation of it and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly personally believe that more and more students should also have a say in the way technology is actually shaping up, because it's actually
Yeah.
shaping up their future, really.
I agree.
That's great. And could you please walk us through like a visual representation or a demo of a generative AI project you worked on and help viewers actually understand the magic behind the technology?
Sure thing. So I really enjoy my PhD because it's so visual. Some projects are quite difficult to describe. You really need to get into the nuts and bolts of the technology. But my one is quite nice. I can show people a video and say that, this video is, in the case of what I'm going to show you, over 100 years old. It was first developed in black and white. And now through the work that I've been conducting, you can see it in full color, which makes it appealing, I think. And, so I think the easiest thing to do now is I'm going to share my screen and I'll show you the video. Okay. So I hope now the live demo works okay for me. So basically what I'm showing you here is I have a YouTube account and I have a Twitter, which is called Vid Color Research. And basically this is where I post my colorized videos. This particular clip is, as I mentioned, I'll play the clip and then I'll describe it, I guess. So what I want you to pay attention to kind of is the colors and how they stay consistent throughout the video sequence. Okay. There you go. That is a video. It's a short clip that I worked on. A little bit about it is that it was taken from a Sydney Olcott video called His Mother, and it was first produced in 1912 in black and white color. And basically, one of my early projects was a paper we wrote called Towards Temporal Stability in Automatic Video Colorization. And essentially what the problem was that colorization is generally done on a frame by frame manner previously. So basically that results in a terrible flickering effect when you do it in that. So the whole point of this technology or this project that we were working on was to try and make that consistent throughout the video sequence. And that's what we did there.
That looks great, actually, and incredible. 1912, my God.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine.
Yeah. So thank you so much for showing us that and the really great work there. And so for the last question, and before wrapping up, for our aspiring AI enthusiasts who are watching us, what advice do you have for them? And how can they actually prepare themselves for a career in this very rapidly evolving field?
Sure. So I think there's a few things that an AI enthusiast should look out for when they're trying to get into the field. The first one that I'm probably going to talk about is there's quite a bit of maths in it. So I think that a good understanding of, linear algebra and calculus and probability is quite important. So basically that lets you understand kind of what these models are doing, and then that helps you become better able to deal with them. Of course, there's the programming side of things. So I think it's quite important to be good at languages such as Python, because a lot of the models are deployed in that. So I think it's good to brush up on the skills in that. Then there's also getting into the more technical side of things. There's like the basic understanding of machine learning. So I think it's important to look into, what is classification, what is regression, what is clustering. That can be really important. And once you kind of master that, you can kind of go into more advanced settings, such as like, deep learning. What are the different types of networks? What's a convolutional neural network? What's a recurrent neural network? And then that moves on to things like GANs and transformers. And in terms of an enthusiast, well, where can you learn these things? I think that there's, a lot of good information available online. Places like Coursera, Udacity, and a particular course that I think is really valuable is the deep learning specialization by Andrew Ng on Coursera. I think it's a really good place to get started. Apart from that, there's also, find what you like, I think is an important aspect of it. Because if you pick a topic that you're passionate about, you can really see that, okay, I really enjoy colorizing videos, and this tool helps me do that in a more convincing way, so it's easier to stick with it. So I think that's really important. So maybe it's computer vision or natural language processing or whatever else it is. Just find what you like and kind of try and focus on that. And then the last thing maybe I'll mention is the soft skills are really important as well. So I think it's important to be good at the technical stuff, but also the soft skills are important. So, work on your communication, work on your teamwork and problem solving skills, because I think that's really important then when you try to go and learning the certain aspects of artificial intelligence. You can speak to people and you can ask the right questions and, help each other learn in a better way. So
Right.
that's my advice.
Passion is very important. I agree. For your PhD,
Definitely.
especially. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be passionate in order to go through years and years and years of research. But thank you so much. That's about it from our end. And thank you for talking to us. And hopefully we can see some more interesting videos and outputs from your channels and from your papers. And I'm sure some viewers might be interested in collaborating in the future. So
Sounds good.
hopefully they can get in touch with you.
Brilliant.
Cheers.
Thanks for
Thank you
having
so
me
much.
on. It was lovely talking to you. Thank you.